if you're having a plate for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, eat your veggies, followed by the protein, and then the carbs last. And that'll help to not spike your glucose as high as if you ate it in a different order. So I love always just learning
Meaning
little.
just an entire plate of carbs. Like I wish I could do.
Yeah. And, it's for me, I'm always about, leading by example and trying to teach my kids. Welcome to the Well Drop, your home for owning your wellness. Each episode, we share drops of wellness wisdom and actionable tips to help elevate your everyday. Today, on this mini drop, we're diving into what we're reading lately. So, Dena and I like to discuss every month what books that we've been reading. And for me, mine is The Glucose Goddess Method. I can't really pronounce the author's name. It's Jessie. And she
Spell
wrote
it.
she wrote The Glucose Revolution. And what have you been reading lately, Dena?
So we've talked about this. I know you read a lot of books about wellness, which is really important, but occasionally I like to escape into fiction as well. And so I'm reading The Collected Regrets of Clover, written by Mikki Brammer. And it's a fictional book about how we handle death and how we look at death. And while not explicitly a wellness book, I feel, for me at least, it's a really interesting conversation about how we look at death as a part of the life cycle and being at peace with it as part of the life cycle. Because I think here on the Well Drop, we talk about all the things we can do to maintain our health and wellness, which is so important. But I also think it's important to understand and appreciate that death is a natural part of life. I think many people, and including myself, struggle with that and think about that. And there's a fear associated because, of course, there's a lot of unknown. And this book, I thought was really special in addressing those concerns and in a fictional way and talking, reminding me how peaceful and wonderful it can be that if you live a full life and you're able to live a long life, then there shouldn't be fear associated with death. And I cried at the end of it. I loved it. I highly recommend it.
Do you have fear when it comes to death? Is that why you're interested in exploring it?
Well, yes, because I have young children right now. I don't have fear of death if I'm in my 90s. My grandmother was well until she was about 94. She went into heart failure, and 5 days later, after she said her goodbyes and said, "I'm ready," passed away peacefully in her sleep. To me, that's the dream. She almost made the choice. She said, "I'm ready and I love you all," and just drifted off. And that I'm not scared of. I mean, I want to be well and I want to be here for my family right now. But no, if I get to old age, I don't have a fear. How about you? Do you think about it?
Yeah, it's funny. I talk about it with my husband, not all the time, but here and there. I don't have fear over it. I think he actually does have more fear over it. And I don't know why I don't have fear over it. I had surgery when I was 1 day old. So I sometimes wonder if I kind of saw the light then or something. And so I've never necessarily had fear over that. And sometimes my husband makes fun of me and calls me Wednesday. He thinks I'm kind of morbid because I don't think it's so freaky. But my mom also probably stems from my mom had encephalitis as a kid. And she says she actually remembers seeing the white light and then choosing not to go there. And none of it sounded so scary. Obviously, death is not, the joy parts of life. Obviously, it's never easy, even when you prepare for it. And I think that, I definitely wouldn't want to have some sort of untimely death. I think that that's obviously very sad. Um, and I do hope to live a fruitful life just like you do. But the act of death doesn't scare me at all for
And it's
whatever reason.
interesting. Another thing that this book touches on that I think is important in terms of living well and mental health that we talk about all the time is being able to let go of those who are no longer with us. I mean, keep what is positive and what is special, but also, I mean, for instance, not to hoard things that belong to those who are no longer here or clutter ourselves too much so that it's
Yeah, I like
oppressive.
that.
And I think it's a good reminder that there is that balance. We always want to hold on to those that we've loved, but to live a full life in which we don't have regrets when we die, we have to be present and we have to be where we are, and we can't just hold on to the past all the time. So, in talking about wellness, as we do here all the time, and for me, it's a very important reminder to be present and to not hold on too much to things that have happened before, people we've lost, because they wouldn't want that. And it doesn't help us to lead a life in which we can then look back on without regret.
Yeah, I
Um,
think of it as, to celebrate. How can we celebrate their life? My husband's mother passed away pretty young, and we actually have a bench in her honor in Central Park, and it's really become our little family's hangout spot. And it's been such a beautiful change shift in really behavior because I grew up always going to the cemetery, honoring my grandparents, and that's what my family always did for every holiday. We were often at the cemetery. My husband didn't grow up like that. And so when his mother had passed away, his family chose to, of course, she's buried in a cemetery and we've been, but to honor her in one of her favorite spots in Central Park. And I find that such a more pleasant experience. And my kids go, and it
yeah,
really is a happy experience to remember the good and not just, of course, we miss her all the time, but do it with a more positive spin on it, I think has been really an interesting shift for me, for my own personal experience when it comes to how to manage and honor those who are no longer with us.
yeah, no, it's beautiful. It's a great idea. Maybe I have to think about that for
Yeah. Food for thought if need
food for
be.
that.
But then
It's
we're going to
really,
move over to sugar.
I was going to say, talking about food,
Food for thought.
glucose. So, what are you learning?
A
You
little
shifted
bit of
into
a
death. Now
shift.
let's go back to life. Yeah.
So I'm very interested in monitoring my glucose. And on another episode, we'll talk about a continuous glucose monitor, which I had been using and kind of playing around with because as we get older, we become more insulin resistant. So I was really just curious to learn okay, what foods might be spiking me, or how is my normal eating pattern maybe affecting my sugar so that I can monitor it and see if I should make some tweaks. And so the glucose revolution, I haven't read the first book, was supposedly some huge hit. And Jesse really breaks it down, and it's a 4-week guide, and it's amazing about learning what foods can spike your sugar, and you may not even realize healthy ones, and also food pairing. So if you're going to eat, a carb or fruit, what should you eat before you have that, or how to eat that? So the order in which you eat your foods. And she says to eat, if you're having a plate for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, eat your veggies, followed by the protein, and then the carbs last, and that'll help to not spike your glucose as high as if you ate it in a different order. So I love always just learning
Meaning
little
just an entire plate of carbs, like I wish I could do.
yeah, and it's for me, I'm always about, leading by example and trying to teach my kids. So even when I serve dinner to my kids, I'm always telling them, start with your veggies. Because I actually thought it was eat protein first. I don't know. That's just kind of what I thought before I read this book. And then she is a major scientist and researcher, and she's, done all the data and the testing. And really, you're supposed to eat the veggies first, which is also good for the fiber to help your body digest it. Um, and I think just teaching our kids that now, it will just become habit and normal from when they're older and not in the house. And I kind of wish that I was more aware of that from a younger age. I think I just sort of naturally got into that rhythm because I more would eat the stuff I don't love first so that I
Mhm.
can savor the better stuff after. That was sort of just my philosophy. But of course, now that we're, more in this midlife era, and that we're gonna be more insulin sensitive to try to make sure that my habits are in line to, make sure what I'm doing is best for my body. And it's great. She has a lot of recipes in here, and it's really about nourishing your body. It's kind of funny. It's really not about depriving yourself. It's strictly about the order. She's like a big, cookie girl, chocolate person, and she's like, "Eat whatever you want, but if you just eat it in this order, you'll be good." And I
And
thought that that's a
that's
great
a great
message.
message for kids too, because I feel like am constantly, I have one child in particular who loves sugar, and I'm always at him like too much, too much, too much, too much, which is probably true. But if we've talked about stupid small, so maybe it is, maybe the
Yeah.
change is Well, okay, fine. You really, really want that sugar? Fine. But here, if you're going to have it, here's the way that the order in which you have to do it.
Yes,
Um,
absolutely, and it makes a
so,
big difference clinically, like, she'll
yeah,
show it, and, especially if you are more of a sugar addict, that will start to affect you as you get older, so trying to make those small changes now so that when you're older, they don't feel like a thing, it just
yeah.
is.
No,
Like
I think that's, yeah. If I could have that win with him, I would take it. Yeah. So maybe I'll try that.
yeah, it was a really easy read and all I love, like, seeing a book with, like, beautiful recipes. I always just find them inspiring of different things to make. I'm trying to see here. She has so many different, you know, things about when to eat breakfast or not eat breakfast. Carbs are not bad. Eating eggs is good. Yeah, it's all, like, basic stuff, but sometimes you just need the reminder,
Yeah.
what to do if you work out in the morning. Should I eat it before or after?
Oh yeah. What did she say? I had that debate in my head this morning.
She said you can always add more food to your breakfast, including more starches and whole fruit if you feel that you need more to fuel your workout. So
Interesting.
just I think it's really just about connecting to your body and listening to your body. I think we just stopped listening. We're all
Yeah.
kind of robots, we just kind of go and do. But we
Yeah.
sort of need to take literally 1 second, just be like, am I actually hungry or am I not? Am I
Yeah.
thirsty? Sometimes you could be dehydrated and then you think that you're starving, but you really just need some water.
Not even starving, that can actually make you think you're craving sugar as well.
Yeah.
So if you drink
Dehydration is a big one.
water, if you're feeling like you want sugar, and then it was suggested to me many years ago by Dena Barcella, who was one of our first interviews on the Well Drop, that if you think you are craving sugar, start by having a glass of water and see if you still want the sugar.
Yeah. It's
And
also
it's also
habit. Like, I just like something sweet all the time. And she does this thing, I really like this. You could probably see this about this little chart here that I could show you. So these are just kind of like little check-ins, which I think is interesting. So simple. How did you feel today? This is for your breakfast and for your lunch and dinner. How strong were your cravings on a 1 through 5? How much energy did you have on a 1 through 5? And making any notes. So again, just bringing back that awareness, I think is
yeah,
just so important. So hopefully for anyone who's curious about, what they should do in terms of how they should eat. Talks about also apple cider vinegar, using that is really good to help with sugar levels, and then different veggies as your starter. Um, it's a great read and good recipes. So
what's
I
the name
enjoyed it.
again?
It's called the Glucose Goddess Method.
Amazing.
All
I'm
right.
gonna check it out. I like you. I love a book with recipes.
Yes, and it's very pretty. It could be a coffee table book. But let us know what you're reading. We'd love to hear from you as well. Please message us on Instagram at the Well Drop, and we would love to hear from you. And thank you for joining us on this episode of the Mini Drop, and we will see you next week.